Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Athens in Motion Commission September meeting here on September 22nd, 2020, the 30th birthday of my youngest daughter. Get that into the minutes, Jake. Anyway, I'm going to share the agenda here and we will go from there. Share. What am I sharing? Well, I'm so used to the, okay. All right, you seeing the agenda? Okay, we have our call to order here. It's 4:03. You can put that down as 4:02. Jake, the agenda, does anyone have any additions to the agenda? Okay. Can we vote to approve this and move on, right? All in favor? Yeah, I'm not, that's good enough, my 4 things there. All right, Hillary, do we have public comment?
Nope.
Okay, I did check Facebook. Okay, someone else was there. Okay, so then we're going to go on to approval of the minutes. And I have the minutes here. Do we have any discussion of the minutes? Any questions? Mark, I did send you the, I do want to mention that I sent to Ashley, and if we look under number 5 from Bulldog Bikes, I did send her emails seeing if she had any update on the data security and privacy concerns that Mark brought up that she said she'd follow up on. Of course, I only sent that to her a couple of hours ago. And I also included Matt's email from Matt Courtney from Gotcha as well. But are there any other questions that you needed answered, Jake?
No, I think there are a couple. So one thing about this is that it's very hard to take minutes of PowerPoints that include a lot of visuals. So I'm sort of relying here on those, getting those PowerPoints. So Derek's PowerPoint about Firefly, which I'm sure I'd be happy to give, as I think he's delivering that a lot of places. And what is the other? Oh, I guess the revised Jefferson River Road PowerPoint, although I think that's really just a few slides that have dollar amounts on them that are revised. So maybe that one's not as necessary. And then Hillary's repavement PowerPoint is, I mean, I couldn't even really take minutes of that without constant reference to it. So we're gonna have to rely, if Hillary wouldn't mind providing that to include as an appendix.
Yeah, those are good. I just used the agenda that we gave to Mayor and Commission.
Okay.
Okay. So Hillary, you're going to send them?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just had my volume down a little low there. Okay, so we have that. Do we have a motion, or is there any other discussion of the minutes? Hey, Lauren.
Hi.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second?
This is Lauren. I will second.
Okay, that was a motion by Teresa, approved by Lauren. Let's have all in favor of approving the minutes, raise their hand, thumbs up. Okay, that looks like a majority. We got it, Jake, get that down. We have that taken care of, right? Okay, so then we're gonna go back here. God, I hate this little pop-up window. And we're going to come back over here to the agenda. The next thing here is we're just going to go ahead and have our coordinator update because I want to have and we're not voting on anything tonight. So hopefully we'll be moving along here a little faster and we'll have a little bit more time for our committee work to sort of give an update about what we're doing in that sense. So Hillary, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to actually let Todd from Leisure Services go first. I know he has another meeting he has to jump on, and I don't have a lot to update since we are in between Jefferson River and Riverbend Parkway right now.
Okay, so I didn't, I mean, is he part
Oh, no,
of your?
he's just on the phone call because I know that they have some stuff that they've been working on with Firefly and different things like that that you guys would probably be interested in. I see him on the call.
Okay, great, wonderful. Todd, all yours.
Okay, I'm gonna send the link that to Derek's presentation to Jake. It's on our website, so I believe it's the one. I'll confirm with Derek and make sure we get that presentation to Jake and everything. And then as far as the Firefly Phase 3, the one that Derek did the presentation on, it's they've written it up in the agenda and it will be voted on by mayor and commission in October. But basically what he's going to do is the section that's behind the Oakmont subdivision area, that's where we want to do further study on looking at potential alternates, will not be in the piece that they're voting on. They're going to vote on up to a certain point, and then we'll explore those other alternate options, and then they will bring that back to mayor and commission at a future date to complete that segment. So that way he can keep the process of the Firefly Phase 3 project moving forward. And so anyway, and then Firefly Phase 2, the piece that starts behind Racetrack, they are just now starting to put down some silt fences and do some very preliminary grading. I mean, not grading, but silt fence and clearing work. So it really hasn't, you probably can't even tell what that they're out there doing anything, but it is beginning to start. We have our first construction meeting, I believe, next Thursday. So construction is beginning on that project phase. And so those are and then the Winterville Firefly Trail piece, the one in downtown Winterville, we walked it and did a punch list on it. And so that one is super close. The contractor is getting I believe installing the 4 RFIs, the flashing, the blinky flashies, as we call them, for the pedestrian crossing points that we have on that one. And they're doing some little where we have some cracks in the concrete and replacing that. So we would expect that in a couple of weeks that Firefly and Winterville will be done. So, but that's pretty much and then bids for the bridge over Trail Creek, the one in Dudley Park, the big trestle replacement.
Yeah.
That one, I believe bids are due back the 27th of this month. So we should start seeing how much that thing will cost, and it should start moving forward soon. So
Great. Thank you, Todd. Yeah, I've been in Winterville a couple of times. That Firefly is already busy, so
it
that's
is.
great.
It is.
Thank you, Hillary.
All right, so we have Cherokee Road. The commissioner defined option for the multi-use path was approved in September, early September, late August. And then we have Jefferson River Road had their work session and it went really well, very positive. And then we are going to start public outreach in the next week or two. The similar GIS story map and survey will be live, and we'll do 2 weeks of outreach for Jefferson River Road. And then in October, we'll be doing Riverbend Parkway. And that's when we'll be coming to you guys for the Riverbend Parkway preferred option to present to mayor and commission. And then I think January is going to be Barber Street now. And so that's where we are currently with those 4 Athens in Motion projects. And that's really my updates for now. We're just trying to push in those Athens in Motion projects.
Thank you, Hillary. Wonderful.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, great. We were just hopping along here. Aaron, it's 4:13.
In the schedule, all right.
We're 20 minutes ahead of schedule.
Yeah. Well, I'll make this quick too. But a couple weeks ago, America Walks organization hosted Angie Schmidt, who is the author of The Right of Way, and talking about the pedestrian safety crisis in America. She really talks about how this is a social justice issue and a racial justice issue, where there has been a 50% increase of pedestrian deaths over the last 10 years. She was mainly focusing on pedestrian issues and safety issues. But a lot of this increase in deaths has been ignored because a lot of the victims are marginalized. They are a lot of times Latinx, Black, Native Americans, because they're more likely to be killed in pedestrian car accidents. And also older adults. She also looked at older adults are also more likely to be killed in accidents. She gave a lot of examples of the Midwest cities, Detroit, Cleveland. She talked about 8 Mile Road in Detroit, where north of that is more affluent. South has traditionally been more low income. And still the amount of deaths below south of 8 Mile Road, where it's lower income, much, much higher than the pedestrian deaths north of that road. And this can be transferred to a lot of cities like Atlanta. And because you have, of course, more people who are walking and getting to and from the bus who are lower income people, and there's not infrastructure, even in Athens, that we've seen supporting these lower income areas. A lot of institutional racism at hand here. Native Americans, she even looked at rural areas where there's reservations, and Native Americans are 5 times more likely to be killed than white Americans. And rural areas really have no infrastructure for pedestrians. She was showing a lot of examples of goat paths going to and from reservations to stores and crossing very high-speed interstates and highways where people have to walk. Areas are changing. Cities are changing too. They're becoming more diverse. City centers and suburbs are often not designed for walking. Most dangerous states are in Sunbelt areas, from Arizona, Southern California, all the way to Georgia. And she said another issue is more retirees and older Americans are moving south and becoming more affected too by southern areas not having as much pedestrian infrastructure, and also suburbs. A lot of these folks are moving to suburbs where there's not pedestrian infrastructure. They're very car-centric, no sidewalks, no bike lanes, etc. She also talked about the rise of SUV sales increasing deaths and danger. The much higher front ends of SUVs cause 2 to 3 times more deaths, or 2 to 3 times more likely if you're hit by an SUV than a car, to die. And it's even higher for children. There's also visibility issues with these SUVs. The brakes aren't as good. They're heavier. So it's becoming an increasing problem over standard cars. She also talked about very large trucks having bad blind spots in cities and that causing a problem. Her solutions, I don't know. There was talk about, of course, it's too complicated, as we've talked about many times. It's so complicated to do engineering changes to streets and very expensive that a lot of it just gets pushed to the side because everyone says it's too difficult, too expensive to do anything. She did definitely support more temporary, even, some of the changes we've talked about, some temporary changes and putting up bollards and temporary barriers to see, even test out pedestrian and bike feasibility. Some of the other things she offered up was, I don't know, I thought it was a little weak, like more lighting. That I think that presents a whole nother problem with light pollution and issues like that. But that was one of her solutions. And pedestrian islands for busier highways was another solution. I know that she was she was covering a whole book here in just a short period of time. So I'm sure she's got a lot more depth to it than that. But that's what basically she's talking about for some solutions. Did anybody else? I know some other people watched it. I want to make sure I didn't miss any of the main points. But like Teresa, I don't know if you watched it. Yeah. So and Carol. Yeah. But that was the main gist of her discussion.
Thanks, Aaron. I remember the information on the size of the vehicles having an impact on me because that was new information to me in terms of tying that into the pedestrian fatalities and bike fatalities. I also ordered a copy of the book and it's just arrived. So if anyone wants to borrow it, please, reach out to me and I'll share. So that's there as well.
Yeah, I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to read.
Okay, well, maybe I could drop it by since you're right there on the Firefly now.
I've ordered it. I'm just waiting for it to come in.
You ordered your own copy. Okay,
Yes.
good. Anyway, anyone can have it. Okay, great. That we are so on top of it. We are so great here. I'm going to go on to this update. And I do have a couple of pictures to show or something or other, but I just actually added on things, and I'm not even sure if this is legal in terms of agenda, but since it's my notes, I put them on here as I was doing some more things that I just wanted to make sure I shared. And one was about the TADs and possible sidewalk bike lanes. And between my participation in our policy committee, our education committee, Bike Athens, and with some complete streets people. I apologize if I'm repeating any of this to other people, but I did want to make sure I shared this information. Did we talk about the Cherokee Road shift over to the multi-use in a group meeting? Was that? No, I don't think it was. We didn't discuss that the last time, did we, Jake? Because that's not in the minutes. But one of the reasons that the mayor and commissioners voted to not go with our recommendation on the sidewalk was because of the possibility that certain commissioners felt was very strong, was that the TAD money was going to be used to build multi-use and other trails along Lexington Road. And I do want to make sure that you all understand that. Again, as a commissioner-elect, I've been listening to a lot of meetings as well. So how many of you out there with the raise of hands understand these TADs really well or well enough? Okay, so one hand, me. Okay, so the way the TADs are, and this is significant because it could affect and enable a lot to be built in the bike and pedestrian master plan. And basically there are 6 geographical areas that are defined. And at the end of this year, and the mayor and commissioner have voted on them, so at the end of this year, the property tax values on those, whatever's getting caught on property taxes this year will continue to go into the general fund, but anything over that amount in the next year will go into the TAD fund for that TAD area. So for Lexington Road, the TAD area was further extended, I don't know, I guess it's west towards downtown and actually out Cherokee Road a little bit to include our area. And then any of this extra money that's collected can be used in infrastructure in this area. And there's 2 kinds of TADs. One is an area TAD and one's project specific TAD. So for example, if it was project specific, a Costco or something could work with the county and say, if you do this and this and this, we're going to come in here and do this, and then it's all going to raise up the property values or something. None of ours right now are project specific TADs. And I clarified with Manager Williams the other day when I was at another meeting with him that it's not as if we're going to get bonds. So it's not as if like next year we're going to get a $20 million bond or a $10 million bond for the Lexington TAD and then pay it off. That money is going to go off into, it's kind of like Lauren, I'm looking at you, Lauren and Ara, it's kind of going into a little bucket like SPLOS, but it's a TAD bucket and it could be used. When I asked him on the TAD for the one we over by Cherokee, I said, do we have a projection yet of how much money will be collected in that? How much we expect the idea is that you're going to do this development in this area and then the tax revenue is going to go up, but we're going to start collecting the money to do the infrastructure to make it come up. And so I'm not sure if that makes sense to you, but that's just going to be the natural increase in the property tax revenue coming in that would be put into this pot. And they have to put together a redevelopment plan for each of them. And those redevelopment plans should, according to Manager Williams, like include some estimates about how much money could be raised. So we don't know, we all know how much multi-use paths cost, right? I have no idea how much is anticipated to be raised for that one TAD, like in a 5-year period. Is it $10 million? Is it $2 million? And so that's something to be looking for at the end of the year when these redevelopment plans come out. Commissioners Herod and Davenport and Parker, to some extent, felt that there was going to be money in there to build multi-use paths, and thus having the multi-use path on Cherokee was a wise investment because it would connect with those two. So I think that's a summary of the reasoning. Hillary, would you say I got that correct?
I think so. Stephen?
Yes.
Okay, so the possible thing is when I talked to Mayor Gertz last week or the week before in my commissioner-elect role, and he mentioned that there's going to be a lot of building in the next couple of years because of these TADs. And so keeping an eye on them is an important thing to do as they develop, because that money, in this case, the reason why we're having the multi-use pass on Cherokee is because the 2 commissioners or 3 felt certain that there'd be money to build these multi-use paths. So I just wanted to give you the background. So when I move to my other role, you guys will all know that. And you'll also be keeping an idea on those redevelopment plans because they would include bike things. The next thing I just have on my little list, and I'm going to share this.
Carol, we can't ask questions. We're not allowed to ask.
Sure. Ask questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't have a ballpark range of how much we're getting per year. You said like 10 million. We have no idea.
I specifically asked that, to Blaine, and this is just in a conversation. I was like, at this point, do we have any money? Because I was wondering how certain, if you built a multi-use path from down by Carmike to Walmart, can we imagine how much money that would cost, Mark? Huh?
Yeah. And as far as like projects that might fall under this, we're not just talking like, bike and pedestrian and transportation stuff, which would be the most expensive. There are other things that this money could be used for that would be, I don't mean to say competing, but competing like stormwater and stuff like that. Okay.
That's right. That's right. It's not transportation specific at all.
Yeah. So it's not like there would be a pot of money for us to use. We'd probably have to.
No, and I think it would be coming the other direction through this redevelopment plan. Although I know the Greenway did something in terms of like, these are things in terms of the Greenway that could be developed in those plans. So there might be something to do, like put together a list of geographically looking at all the tier 1 projects for bikes and sidewalks that fit inside of those.
Hey, Carol,
Chad, yes.
I'm already working with planning on that.
See, we're on top of it. And I'm sure you'll share that up to date. So, are there any other questions? Okay, so then the next thing was, I'm going to just pull this agenda up here. And this is I added a question mark to this here in terms of this agenda. And that was, I in one of these meetings, I was talking about, or someone was talking about what we can and cannot do in terms of raising money, spending money. I think, Teresa, we were talking about this with education and Roswell on that. And like, could we raise money for safety vests that set Athens in motion? Is that something that we as a commission can do? And I know that, and Jake, you might be able to answer this in terms of your experience with the Greenway Commission, but you started a Friends of Greenway because that organization could raise money. And I assume that's a lot of what it could do, and could spend money on.
I think you were cutting out there.
Okay. That the Greenway could, that the Friends of the Greenway could raise money for.
So
what was the purpose of the Friends of Greenway?
Right. The Greenway Commission itself can raise money, including if people wanted to directly donate money to a commission, they can do that. And that's in the Greenway, statute, charter thing, bylaws, whatever it is. And I think it's probably in Athens in Motion one too. The question is, are people willing, if you're looking for donations, are people willing to donate to a governmental organization versus a 501c3?
Right.
And but the Greenway Commission has applied for grants on its own, although I think almost always we've used someone else as the fiscal agent. But that's something we can do as Athens in Motion.
Okay, so anyway, I just brought the idea of Bike Athens up here because they have been involved in bike pedestrian issues in terms of fundraising and working with working on different initiatives. And I put this on there, and I'm not even sure what I'm referring to now. Teresa, do you have any memory of this?
Yes. I believe, I'm sorry that I don't see Scott here in the list, so I'm sorry he's here, but he was very positive about working with Athens in Motion. They have many materials and programs that they've developed over the years that sync very nicely with our mission. And so I think it would be mutually beneficial to do more with them. And if they are able to do fundraising or accept donations within their organization, that would really be wonderful for us. Because we don't know at this point what sort of budget we're going to want for publicity and education. And that's something we need to try and get a handle on. But anyway, so he was very, very positive about playing that role. And so yes, I personally think it's wonderful. And I don't believe that Athens in Motion is able to sell anything or solicit any funds legally. I believe Hillary will verify that for us.
I'm not sure. We need to check with the clerk's office and what your bylaws are and what you can and can't do.
So again, the Greenway Commission can sell things and can solicit funds. So it would be a change. I mean, it could be different for Athens in Motion, but if it's modeled on the Greenway Commission, then we can. But we sold T-shirts for a while before the Friends of the Greenway took that over. I sold T-shirts like out of a.
Yeah. I don't think Athens in Motion has a treasurer function, which is how you guys are.
Right.
I think
You mean the Greenway Commission?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
true.
we currently
We don't have a
include
treasurer.
that.
I think it's an older commission and
Okay.
has more different rules. So that might, I'm going to follow up with that. And also, I know that we've never put together ex officio members of our committee. Like we're not sending Scott an invitation to Bike Athens to be on this meeting. So I do want to firm that up before I move on to the other role. Okay, that goes. The next thing I was just following up is our discussion on sidewalk gaps, and that I had shared with the list of sidewalk gaps. And I really want to just reiterate what Stephen said, that these are really used in a historical context to see how the program came about. And what he emphasizes is that the remaining gap projects have been rolled into Athens in Motion and evaluated through Athens in Motion methodology. And I believe I asked him for this because sometimes I hear commissioners talking about the sidewalk gap program as if it still exists, rather than it be like we were finishing up some projects, because that's the way they are, but there is no longer a current sidewalk gap project. This is a historical document. And so I wanted to make sure everyone knows that, because clearly not everyone knows it in the government. Any questions on that? Mark, you want to say anything about the cost? No. The next thing I was just going to mention was this identifying and addressing barriers to physical activity in the Black community and arrested mobility. Some of you attended this workshop that was made available through the Georgia Bike Summit, and I think I have something here. And I believe I just said something out on that today. I would really recommend listening to it. It says it's 2 hours long. The first part is a presentation from Charles Brown, who's really the sort of like the leader in bike pedestrian, sorry guys, equity issues. And he presented this model about arrested mobility. That actually is fairly short, so you could listen to that and not listen to the rest. Although I think it was actually helpful for me to listen to the rest as well. They were all people who are very involved in mobility, bike, pedestrian, sidewalk safety issues, and they were all people of color. And it was interesting to hear the discussion on so many topics that are related to the work that we've done or read about. And so I think it was just really helpful to get just, oh, not everyone likes what is it? Not everyone likes Vision Zero the same way, or people cynical about this. Aaron, were you shaking your head there that you had watched it? No? Did anyone watch the whole thing? Someone Craig. Would you add anything to what I said about watching this? Are you muted?
There we go. Okay. I pushed the button. Okay. Hey, everybody. Sorry for any distractions that came as I was switching from phone to computer. No, I echo Carol's sentiments about watching it. I think it's worth the time, definitely. The only thing that I kind of point out that's a little bit independent of this presentation was how it connected to and was, I think, contrasted, supported perhaps, but related to the other presentation. I'm sure these can be made available for anyone to view, but that as part of the Bike Summit, the Out of the Mouth of Babes, which was a project that was targeting minority youth and children and encouraging them to use their to be on bicycles, and how that program developed. It was one of the most positive programs I think that I've encountered in a long time. And the reason why I bring it up is because how it relates to this aspect of arrested mobility. These are children and their experiences, how that may shift as they become adults, particularly people of color. And then the other aspect is how that connects with Bike Athens and some of the projects that maybe we could be involved with at a community level. I think it was very encouraging in that way, and gave possibilities. So it helps a little bit.
Thanks, Craig. Craig, was that one of the Georgia Summit ones?
Yes, it was Saturday at 12 o'clock.
Okay, I was out riding my bike. Right. Okay, missed that one.
I would definitely. It's worth watching, just for
Okay.
encouragement, I think.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments there on the Bike Summit? If anyone attended anything? Okay, let's cross that out.
Just real quick, I did attend a few of the sessions, and they were quite interesting, and I think 30 to 40 people attended each one.
Yeah. I also have, I think I sent something out about this to several people, but in terms of, actually, let me go back to over here and see what I said. Moving on to the open streets update. I did want to mention that I had followed up with Ken Kilpatrick and Leisure Services just earlier this week, thinking, I think Elliot Caldwell had sent out something to a few of us about open streets in Macon. And so I sent something off to Ken Kilpatrick to see if he was interested in us picking up this discussion of open streets in Athens, which seems even more relevant now that we've had this time to adjust to COVID, but just encouraging the outdoor space, the healthy living and such. And so the one in Macon was an interesting model to look at. They also, either that one or something else. Again, let me see if I can get to, nope. Let me go away. It's this thing at the top that's popping down, so I can't switch windows. But I think I sent something out about this as well. Storytelling for Agility and Resilience, a webinar that I signed up for, which is about, what is it? We delve into how to be more skillful strategic storytellers in this time of disruption and transition, to successfully engage with more diverse and growing audiences by painting the future we want to see. And so anyone who's interested in sort of the education and the encouragement of people of color, people of less thought of as cycling, not people, to get out and cycle and walk and exercise, sort of following up from the other webinar. I just thought it would be interesting to sort of see a different way to try to engage people. And so I just shared some information about that. Likewise, this is just a little fun little thing. I wanted to show you an example of the power of Athens in motion, but also to keep you on the lookout for things. This is a new sign that's over. Thank you, Hillary and Steve Decker, for this, or whoever was involved in it, Hillary. There was a sign here on College Station that said, watch caution on right turns. I can't remember what it said, but I was on here and as a driver, I was trying to figure out what it said. What it meant, because I was going to be turning right here and I didn't see that anyone was going to be turning right into me as a car. Like, who was going to be turning into me, right? And when I talked to Steve Decker and Hillary about this, they were like, "Oh, that's really for cars for pedestrians and bicyclists to be aware of cars turning right there." Which I, as a cyclist, never looked at that to sort of think about that was something to do with me. I appreciate the way they put this in here, because it actually puts caution to the driver to be alert, because they are the more powerful force here. But I wanted to just sort of thank them for this, and also let other people know that if we're seeing things, we are the people who have our eyes and minds on this biking and sidewalk signage and what's going on here. And if we see something that doesn't make sense, maybe it does make sense to other people, but I think it's worth sharing. Likewise, where's my other little thingy there that goes into that? Likewise, there was a, where's my picture? I know.
Can I make a comment on that one while you're looking
You could
for the
make
other one?
a picture in that.
I was just going to mention that that signs are double duty because it also tells bikes and pedestrians that cars are supposed to be looking for them. And of course, the contrapositive of that is a lot of them won't be looking for them. So be careful.
Yes.
So good sign.
Yeah, and likewise here again, something I thought was like was ridiculous. So you can see this little spot with this dirt in here. This is on the Greenway, and you can. This is a Waffle House, like right on the other side there. But I was riding my bike along here, and there was a father and son at the intersection here on bikes, but they weren't going over to press the turn light, and so I just in my, I just went over on the grass right through here, except for there was a hole here. My tire went in it, and I flipped over perfectly fine, just a couple of bruises. But I was like, oh, this is so stupid. I shouldn't share this with anyone. Anyway, I did share it with them, and Alex Bond sent me a message with this picture. This was a hole from a utility pole that was, they forgot to fill it in. There were 15 gallons of dirt went into that hole. So my lesson learned and that I'm sharing with you is if we see things out there, report them. So, hey, Hillary, while we're at it on that, what about things we see on bike lanes where there's like dirt in the middle of the bike lane or gigantic, like a big broken glass all over the place? Is there any process for reporting those things?
Stephen, would that be streets and drainage? Or would that be central services?
It depends on where it's found. So if you're saying if it's in the bike lane,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
then that would be streets and drainage.
Okay. Got it. Well, now you all know. The other thing is I hope you guys all saw the emails on the trees that we had talked about. I do want to say that just like an hour ago, I got a email from someone who's on the tree council that I'm following up with, who are interested in what did they say? Interested in approaching the concept of a tree bank amendment to the tree ordinance, and that this might be something that could help out with bikes in Athens in motion, and I'll follow up on that. And the following 2 points, since I'm blabbering on here so much and using all this time, is that I will be working on an annual report for this past year and put together some budget requests. And I want to have that done before I roll out of being on Athens in motion at the end of the year, which I'm assuming I will have to do because of being a commissioner. So this is September, so I would assume that I'll be here for 2 or 3 more meetings, and then I'll be, and I will find out what happens in terms of replacing me, and I would hopefully Lauren will step up and be chair, unless I guess you guys can decide on that without me. So anyway, that's all for here. Teresa. Moving on to the project revision.
Okay, so this has been a fun thing to work on, and I appreciate Carol for spending so much time on it, and everyone else who's weighed in. So we have it's a pretty simple process, and I believe everything is out in the Dropbox now. And what you see is, on the screen that Carol is showing is pretty much the state of this thing. But we we think that we should have a process that is transparent and rational to revise the Athens in Motion plan document as it was adopted, just to reflect changes in our community. So revisions to the plan could include new projects, changes to existing projects in our current list, reprioritization of existing projects, or even possible deletion. I can't imagine that happening, but you never know. So the first step is to have a formal request come in for that. And so the entities to request would be our mayor and commissioners, Athens-Clarke Transportation and Public Works staff, citizens, and then, of course, Athens in Motion commissioners. Mark pointed out we needed an S there, and I think that's exactly what we need there. Triggering events would be things like a new school or park, a new housing or business development. If we find there are network connectivity and safety problems, if for example, a TAD results in a new part of the bicycle network being put in, then we would have to take a look at that and see how it affects the overall network. If there's a missing connectivity link that somehow got overlooked, or if there's just something else that we can't imagine right now. All right, somebody wants to say something. Is that Mark? Okay, I'll continue if you don't want to say anything.
I did have a question, Teresa, because it looks like there's been some work at it. Are we saying network connectivity problems, or is it network connectivity or safety problems?
Well, I think safety is an important implicit goal in everything that we do. So if there is a safety issue, then we do need to address it.
No, I guess what I mean with the wording, is it just for network? Yeah, okay. So it's not connectivity problem. It's not connectivity problems and safety problems. It's just network connectivity and safety problems.
Yeah, I mean, we can put and safety in there, because we're all about safety. Okay, connectivity link or safety problem. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. So then, so for each request that we get, and we could get 0 or we could get 100. We just don't even know. They'll all come through the Transportation Public Works Bike and Pedestrian Coordinator, who we wish would always be Hillary, but we understand that can't be the case. So we would have from them just a high level analysis when brought up for our initial discussion. So how does the proposed revision affect the connectivity of the network? What's the impact on the existing Athens in Motion plan? What could the budget be? And then what does Transportation and Public Works think about it? Do they think that it's worth taking a deeper look at, or is it not something that makes a lot of sense, or they may have some other thoughts on that? And then Carol had mentioned she wants to do an annual review, and so as part of her annual review, she would then look at the list of proposed revisions, and then the commission would vote to review each project in more detail and add the proposed changes to future AIMC meeting agendas. So this is it's a project that TPW has said, this has merit. So we look at it and say, yeah, let's look at it further. And then, so at the end of each year, then we would have these somewhat developed proposals, and we would like to see how they rate with Athens in Motion criteria scoring. So I believe Hillary, has been able to get the information from Tool Design, so we can actually compare apples and apples, which is really excellent. We would want some idea of the scope and the project boundaries. We would want to know the impact on existing Athens in Motion projects, a basic linear square foot cost estimate. So again, it's an apples to apples comparison with what we have on the current plan. What might the benefits of this proposed revision be to the surrounding area and to the entire active transportation network? And then a recommended placement on the Athens in Motion tiered project list. So should it be a tier 1, 2, or 3? Is it something that we should put a lot of focus on right away, or is it something that can wait, and that sort of thing? And so then after looking at all of these in more detail, then we would vote to advance the requested change, or reject it, or make a change to it. Say maybe, well, it's, it'll be a good idea if we do this, that, and the other. And then we would send that to the bike and pedestrian coordinator to talk to the mayor and commission about, and then it would be up to them to say, yeah, we can add these things or take these things out or make these changes. And we would go from there. So that's basically where we are. There's a little diagram that
May I ask a question?
Mark has a question.
Yeah, so for item 5, with regard to submissions for projects that are already in the plan and requesting reprioritization, say something tier 1, tier 3, tier 2, or tier 2 to tier 1, would we use the prioritization criteria, the score that currently exists for that road in the Athens in Motion plan, or would we be coming up with a new score based on these factors?
I think it would depend. If it's a change to an existing, then we want to stick with what was done before. If it's something new that we don't know about, then what we want to be able to do is apply the same criteria, so we can say, oh yeah, this should have, this definitely merits being in a tier 1 or a tier 2.
Okay, so we're not gonna rescore existing roads or existing projects?
No, we should.
So my question is, what if the conditions have changed for those roads, for those projects? Because it's a community changes over 10 years, 20 years.
Right. Then you would.
And so, okay, then you would. Sorry, I stepped away. Teresa, you were trying to ask me something and I stepped away to get a water. It's not a beer, I promise.
No, it looked like you wanted to say something because your mute went off and I thought you were wanting to say something. So.
Oh, no, I did have one question though. It says in the preamble up above, he or she, talking about the Hillary person, will share the revision requests throughout the year with the Athens in Motion Commission at monthly meetings as part of a status report.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll get them presented then, and then we get them all presented again at the end of the year?
Yeah, we get as they come in, we're notified, the who, what, when, where, why, how, that sort of thing. And then we would get the more detailed view on the ones that have merit. For example,
actually, Teresa, we have 2 steps in here. I mean, we have like, okay, it's May. We just got a request to look at Pathwood Drive,
right?
And then go. That has to be. Then Hillary would go off and spend some time doing number 3.
Right.
Okay. But then at the end of the year, all of them would be presented and we'd be saying, okay, now that you have this like preliminary information about Pathwood Drive, this street and that street, do these merit the deeper, really thorough review?
Right.
And then each one of those would be presented separately, like kind of the way we would have like the Jefferson River Road, like here's the project, this is what we're saying, do you want to approve it or not? So it could be rejected not rejected, we should say. It'll be voted on in 2 places. So whether or not you should go to the deeper one and then the deeper analysis. Does that make sense, Mark?
Yes, that makes sense. It was a little unclear to me. And
yeah, I think
maybe that could be fleshed out a little more.
Right. Yeah, we want to make that clear. Because, I mean, the last thing we want to do is have staff devote an inordinate amount of time to something that does not make any sense. for us.
Hey, Teresa?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I just want to provide a little clarification on two things. The first is similar to Greenway Network Plan, there needs to be almost every 5 or whatever year that you guys decide is doable or feasible for the changes the community sees, overhaul and oversweep of all of the projects in Athens in Motion. That's only something anyone would recommend any sort of plan holder every 5 to 10 years. But that is really important because you need to make sure your plan is as up to date and flexible as the county changes over time. And so feasibly, the next big overhaul would be like 2023. Each year, because the plan is not all inclusive, the bike head coordinator would run through the individual projects that are added the same methodology of prioritization, because Tool Design Group is making my position a tool that will allow them to quickly run another prioritization based on the existing ones that were done in 2018.
Okay.
Just want to provide that clarification that, like, no, not every year are we rerunning the model. It's just not feasible for someone in my position over the whole county, but you will need to prepare to do an update every 5 to 10 years, similar to how Greenway Network Plan does.
Okay. So are you saying that we would not be making any change to the project list and schedule except for at a 5-year interval?
No, I'm saying that each year, so Cathwood Drive, that example, each year those projects would get added, but the entire plan wouldn't get relooked at cohesively again until 2023, every 5 to 10 years.
Got it. So we can be adjusting what's on the schedule as we go, as needed. And then every 5 years, we'd have to have sort of a retreat to look at the whole thing and, make sure that it all still made sense.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to, but it would probably be a good idea just to make sure your plan stays up to date.
Yeah. Okay. So overhaul to stay up to date. Okay. Yeah. Good. Okay. Anything else?
I might say that that every 5 to 10 years, the whole plan will be reviewed for, not overhauled.
Yeah.
Yes, not overhauled, but reviewed. Cherokee Road, for example, people further up Cherokee Road might not be requesting that the rest of the road be re-looked at for a tier 1, but say in 5 years, all of Lexington Road is done. That segment on Cherokee that got approved is done. And then all of Firefly is done up near Winterville. Maybe all of a sudden when we rerun the model in 5 years, because of all that new existing infrastructure, that section on Cherokee Road all of a sudden pops up to a tier 1 versus a tier 3. That's the kind of stuff that in 5 years you'd be looking to refresh, not overhaul.
Right.
Can I ask a question about what rerunning means? So rerunning the model is not the same thing as coming up with a brand new plan, doing this whole thing all over again, spending another $300,000.
No, ma'am.
No. It's using what was used in 2018 again for something requested in 2021. It's not changing the metrics, nothing like that. The only way that could happen is if mayor and commission moved to do a new plan.
Okay, and you're saying that we'd have to a tool like go through this versus our bike head coordinator and staff use the model, because the model is helpful, but it's not feasible with the bike head coordinator's time to do that?
No, the bike head coordinator would do it. I don't know what the new tool is going to look like yet, because we just are working on the scope with Tool Design Group right now. But part of it will include a public-facing tool that can actually show, for example, like a heat map of the equity metrics for the county and all these other things that will help make it more transparent and more clear about why something's tier 1 versus tier 3.
That's wonderful. Oh my.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
Really good. Really good.
Yeah. So whatever Hillary did in those discussions, or whoever with Tool Design, all the power to you. Great. Thanks for getting that going.
Yeah.
And you wanted to show, I think I had a picture of here.
Yes. My cute little picture. Love pictures. Okay. So I mean, it's basically what we want this to be is kind of a handout that, anybody could look at and say, oh, I see how they do this. So they wouldn't have to read because not everybody likes to read. But basically, you start with your Athens in Motion plan, a triggering event happens, the bike and pedestrian coordinator reviews the request for the plan change, the commission reviews the proposed plan changes, the commission votes. If we vote no, then there would be no change for that particular request. Yes, then we would want to have a more detailed then we would want to go to the mayor and commission with that, and then the mayor and commission would say, yes, we'll change the plan, or no, we don't see any reason to do this. Then we'd end up with the revised plan. So I think what we also want in here, maybe, Hillary, is do we want to show like every 5 years we somehow we take a look at the whole thing, or not do that here?
Not yet, because I mean, I just throw 5 years out because I think that's what Greenway Network does.
Yeah.
And you might need to think as a group what yearly review works best for this type of project. And I think that's something you'll work on with the next bike ped coordinator.
Okay.
I have a couple of comments now that we're on the flow chart.
Yeah.
So there's a triggering event, but then it says bike ped coordinator reviews the request for plan change. Does there have to be both a triggering event and a request, or do those triggering events by themselves
Well, the triggering
result
event
in?
would generate the request.
So it could be request that box could say request upon caused by triggering event, or triggering event causes request or something. So what you're saying is that the actor needs to be put in there, Jake. We need to work on wording.
Yeah, unless the triggering event in itself automatically causes the bike ped coordinator to start reviewing stuff, which seems unlikely because one of them is new housing or business development, and that could be a wide variety of scales. But my other...
It's
Go
a
ahead.
request based on a triggering event.
Okay.
All right. So what would you like the diamond to say?
I just put down request based on triggering event.
Okay. In the diamond.
That works.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other thing is, this is more of an observation, and I've been thinking about this, like with Mark's comment about 10 to 20 years, and Hillary talking about, eventually Cherokee Road might be reprioritized, for example, based on demographic changes. But the new housing business development, so as long as there's a request, it's kind of a moot point, but it's not so much the new housing or business development that should trigger a review of prioritization or adding or to the Athens in Motion plan, as it is people actually moving into that housing or business development. And I'm specifically thinking of all the stupid student condos that went up on East Broad Street and were basically vacant for the whole time I was living down there. So I just wanted to make sure that if somebody builds a giant condo, it doesn't mean that we're suddenly looking at reprioritizing that street because potentially someday someone might actually move in there.
Good point. Okay, so
Sorry, I lost the picture.
fully occupied housing or business development or something like that.
Yeah, but as long as the triggering event doesn't in itself do it, like somebody has to request it, even if I guess it's the business development themselves or the landlord of the property. I think that's a legit. We could just say no. Nobody's living here yet. We're not going to reprioritize based on that. But I think as long as it's clear that there has to be a request by someone that it works as is.
Okay.
Sorry, guys, I lost this thing.
If I could just briefly follow up with Jake's comment. I mean, I'm thinking about this. One caveat could be, way back when I remember it being discussed that were a new development to take place, that within the requirements of that development would be considerations regarding bicycle ped activity, and that there could be additional funds due to the development if the regulations were such that take those things into consideration more than they currently are. So that could be something to think about when it comes to new projects like that.
So
Hey, Craig, before we go on a full development discussion, that would be a land use development planning. We would have to talk to planning, and that would involve a lot of ordinance changes that would need to go through mayor and commission, and that's a little beyond the scope of revising the Athens in Motion plan as we are right now.
Yeah, correct. I was just referring to
sure.
that hopefully taking place at some point, within the next 5 years, perhaps. Once Carol gets on the commission, maybe that'll happen.
Well, good, because
Yeah,
you're going to have to
trying to get
repeat it.
planning in here to talk to you guys.
You might have to wait for Carol to be mayor.
Yeah, you're going to have to repeat the whole thing because I was so busy trying to get the right graphic up. I didn't even hear what you said. Okay. I'll review the.
Just briefly, and I think Hillary and I are saying something similar, but I was just following up on Jake's comment that if, say there's a new development and it doesn't gain a lot of traction, supposedly in terms of its intention, but hopefully, as was pointed out.
You're mute, Craig.
Sorry, Hillary had brought it up, that our bar to development in terms of supporting bike and ped use is very low right now, and that other cities have requirements when developments take place that there would be aspects, there would be funds for improvement of biking and ped use.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Going once, going twice.
This looks great. Thank you guys for your hard work. It was very clear to me.
Okay, good.
Right now.
Clean it up. And the stuff is out in the Dropbox. So if anybody, wants to hack away at it some more, please do. And then we'll finish it up and we'll be ready to go.
Yeah, it's a lot more intuitive.
I'd like to suggest that we clean it up slightly, get it back out, and vote on this at our next meeting. So we don't really we'll just have one more chance to clean it up. I'd also like to request that Hillary find out what we do next. I mean, Teresa and I were talking and we were like, oh, we want this as an addendum, an appendix in the Athens in Motion plan. How do we do that? Does this need to get approved by the mayor and commissioner in terms of getting this officially in place? So, Hillary, if you could follow up on that, so that once we approve this.
I can actually probably answer that now. And what I would advise is you don't need this as an addendum to the Athens in Motion plan. If you try to do that, you do need to go through a mayor commission session.
Yeah.
And I would not advise doing that for something like this. This is really an internal work document, an internal process for all of you. The only thing mayor and commission vote on is what finally makes it into the Athens in Motion plan. How you get it to them is up to you. So you really don't need this as an addendum. This can just kind of live as your process, your document, and everything like that.
Well, I'll ask you another question then.
Yeah.
We all know that it's a document. The point is to have other people know that this is a process that is available. And so we have to have some way to communicate this to the public. And if it were my, I'd have a link on that webpage that I make for Athens in Motion in Clarke County, that this would be there so that someone could find out how to do this. So it has to be somewhere public. How do we
would just be working with PIO. We don't need to go through mayor and commission to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll work with PIO to get this on, because this is not an official change to the Athens in Motion plan. This is just how to get it to mayor and commission where that change happens. and you're not recommending circumventing mayor and commission from the final official vote.
Okay.
So
So it still
I think
goes
we
to
just have
them,
go through
right?
CIO.
I see. I understand it. Okay, so we'll work after we vote on this next time. We'll send this off. We'll get it into somehow a public place.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay, let's move on with this agenda, which I think means we get to the Grants and Data Committee. So, Grants and Data Committee, take it away. Mike, Mark.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. It's been a long day on Zoom. So we met last week. We identified a couple of projects. Let me pull up my document. I was not prepared to present, so it'll just take me a moment. Sorry about that.
I'll chime in.
Yeah, if you want to talk, go ahead while I'm pulling up my document.
Yeah, so we have 4 potential projects with varying states of readiness to actually write a grant application. But the 2 that we are looking at initially are to do something involving wayfinding that Mark will pull up, which is kind of a I don't want to say boilerplate, but it would be pretty easy to say, here are all the spots where we need additional wayfinding to guide people to bike and pedestrian friendly infrastructure and routes. And then we would need to work, of course, very closely with leisure services and transportation and public works on the design and implementation of the wayfinding. So this would be a collaborative effort. The other one is the idea that Roswell had before he ditched our committee, understandably, which is to add a sort of a little blurb in the school newsletters for all of the Clarke County School District schools that have them, that was specifically about bikes and promoting active transportation, and maybe talking about the active transportation options that are relevant to that audience. And so James was working on getting that hookup, and then a little further down the line is, and I emailed him but haven't heard back, is Ike Choi, who was a professor in the College of Education at UGA, has developed I don't think I've said this to the full group, but has developed a virtual reality safety simulation training program for child pedestrians that he has used in China and Korea so far, and not in Athens, because he hasn't had funding to do it in Athens. But it is a safety. You have a little avatar, and you have the virtual reality goggles on and the whole 9 yards, and you're put in these decision scenarios where you have to decide. Your friend is calling to you from across the street, and you have to make the right choice of going to the crosswalk instead of just running across the street and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a little bit focused on the pedestrian behavior rather than car behavior. And so another idea would be to develop something like that long term that was for drivers and somehow get that implemented. But anyway, but this is kind of, sorry, I'm babbling for some reason. Mark, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of things. Thanks for summarizing that. And let me see. Yeah, thanks for summarizing that so nicely. We did talk quite a bit about that issue of adding adults, because they're the problem, not the kids. The kids aren't the problem per se. But we also realize it's going to be very challenging. The adults that would volunteer to come in and participate in something like that are probably the ones that least need it. And so, we just felt like there might be an issue capturing that audience, whereas kids are a captive audience and much easier to get excited about doing something like this. So we were planning to start there. And you reached out to Ike and haven't heard back from him. I'm the person who's supposed to write up the grant for the wayfinding, and the only thing I wanted to add there, it's not wayfinding on the Greenway per se, it's wayfinding to get to the Greenway, safe routes to multi-use paths and greenways, connections, safer connections that people may not know about. We have a lot of folks in Athens that are new to town or that are only here for 5 years or 8 years, and they often don't have that sort of institutional memory of how do you navigate around town, and so things that would facilitate that. In any case, I will be, now that I got my worst part of the week over, hopefully, I will be reaching out to Hillary and kind of finding out the best people to talk to within Transportation and Public Works and to get their input and approval on this grant proposal. That's all.
Great.
And the data person, the intern who has been doing the data abstraction and putting together the database of traffic accidents, basically, has finished their internship, got a real job, but they've identified someone else internally who's going to take over on that. I think Stephen was the one who said that they had identified someone. We were looking for a substitute intern, but I think they've got somebody internally.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Grants and Data Committee. Okay, let's move on to our Policy Committee. Lauren.
We met last week. We will meet again next week because we had some questions about process and what to do when we do have a draft, and who presents it before the Mayor and Commission, of staff. And so we are hoping to have a draft by the end of the year, but whether that gets to be before Mayor and Commission, not really sure about that because it will have to go through staff. So we're meeting again next week. We're kind of getting back into the kinds of language that we want to have in this update of our Complete Streets policy. We want to be specific and not vague. So we are continuing work on that. And then we talked about the tree canopy and what happens if, say, a road project or a sidewalk project takes out a tree. Do we replace it? And we can, but we're not going to do it if it involves moving a utility line, of course, because that's very expensive. And there's issues of right-of-way there. The tree itself, Hillary, you had said, was not very expensive. It's not expensive on the part of the foliage itself. It's just the things around it. Did I summarize that accurately?
Yep.
Okay.
Lauren, too, we talk about the policy meeting next week at Tuesday, because we have a T-SPLOS meeting at the same time.
Our T-SPLOS meeting got moved to Tuesday?
Yep, I believe so. Let me just double check here.
Oh, wow. I would totally miss it. That has never happened before.
No, hold on a second. Maybe you're right. Hold on. This came out. I thought it was.
It's September the 28th, right? And that's a Monday?
Yeah, it's a Monday, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, never mind then. False
Cool.
alarm. Sorry, so many meetings.
Yeah, we usually have this meeting the same week as T-SPLOS, but
Yeah.
and so we have
Good.
a policy meeting the same week as T-SPLOS.
Yeah.
Thank you,
What's
Erin.
the date and
No,
time?
no, thank you.
The date and time for the next policy meeting is next Tuesday, September 29th at 5 p.m.
5.
Thank you.
Yes. Also, Craig had put out a request to have the meetings go to, the WebExes go to all members. I don't remember what we decided or what.
I can do that. I just wasn't sure if everyone wanted every single AIM meeting sent to them or not, or if just the committee members wanted it.
How do y'all feel about that?
Considering I'm getting 100 emails per day about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Yeah, that might be easier on you, Hillary, so you're not trying, or the next person in your position, so you're not trying to figure out who am I supposed to include on this. I mean, we'll have some other people who aren't part of the AIM group as well,
But you do not have to come unless you're on the committee. I get the Greenway subcommittee and subcommittee emails, and I'm always like, oh, I'm not going to go to that meeting. feel like I'm playing hooky. But okay, thank you, Lauren. And Teresa, now we're back to you.
Okay.
Education communication.
Right. Okay. So after our long, kind of weird hiatus because of the stupid pandemic, we actually kind of started to get our act together and talk about educating and communicating and all that. And I have to say, first of all, before I say anything else, how much I enjoyed the parts of the Georgia Bike Summit I was able to watch and listen in on. Very eye-opening and yeah, it's really helpful to know that the people that we most need to reach are the ones that are going to be the hardest for us privileged people to reach. And those would be our underserved neighbors who don't necessarily have the iPhones and the laptop computers and all that stuff. But so basically, our communications and education subcommittee is coming up with a work plan. And so our meeting was to just talk about some ideas, countywide education campaigns for pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, walking and biking demonstrations and activities, largely aimed at children, but children of all ages too. College student programs for new students about multimodal transportation, and then also talking about safety laws and opportunities. So our target audiences, at the top of the list, I have underserved population. They've got less access to technology and internet messaging. We also need to somehow reach drivers because drivers are our biggest problem. Not only are drivers distracted, but sometimes they're aggressive and they're also driving bigger and bigger vehicles. And so they are less aware of those delicate little pedestrians and bicyclists around them. We want pedestrians to be aware of their own responsibility when walking, how to cross streets correctly, how not to get hit by a car if you can avoid it. Bicyclists should be aware of all the traffic laws because they do apply. And then just how to be extra aware of what's going on around you and giving yourself an out so you don't end up, getting hit by somebody who's distracted if you can possibly get out of the way. The general public, we want them to know about Athens in Motion, our goals, methodology, about complete streets. The mayor and commission, we want them to understand how we're going about making our recommendations, and applying the goals and the objectives of Athens in Motion to their agenda items when they come up for discussion. We need to reach UGA students and we need to reach our public school students. Probably also some of the private school students too. Although, I don't know. So our methods would be public announcements. We've got a couple of radio stations. We can outreach to churches, neighborhood leaders, and our Athens-Clarke commissioners. We can use Facebook and other social media. It would be great to work with the police department. We want them to help us educate. We're not interested in, giving people tickets or any other problems other than what they already are dealing with. We can identify the hot spots. We can try to increase visibility and awareness. We can coordinate with the UGA bike program, Bulldog Bikes, and also with the schools. Then I would just love to do more with Bike Athens because they have just done a wonderful job with developing materials and programs. And they're just such a great resource in the community. And I got the feeling that that Scott was very, very interested in working more with us. So I feel like it could be so beneficial to them and to us to work together more. So, we want to have an open streets event of some sort. It would be nice to have some group rides, to publicize some of the classes that they do. There were just a lot of interesting ideas that we talked about using geolocation and pop-up events and mapping apps. So, this is a pretty big effort, and I think that we're going to need lots of people to weigh in, and we're going to need some expertise from professionals, people who know how to develop messages and get them out. And so we've got a small amount of money through a state grant, which is $12,000. But obviously we can't just say, give us some money and we'll do the rest. We have to come up with a plan and a budget. So that's really kind of where we're going to be focusing next is, what can we do? How can we do it? What is it going to cost? What's the most important thing to do? Prioritize that.
Therese, oh, sorry, I'm hanging up. Teresa, I was just going to mention, working with Scott Long at Bike Athens is a great idea. He actually sent me, he was going to do a bike ride on the Greenway with Chesson community members. And I don't think I forwarded it. Maybe I forwarded it to this group. I can't remember. But in any case, that got canceled. But that's the sort of thing that that's the sort of programming that they're doing. Partnering with them and maybe giving them a little money for their activities would be a really good way to go, I think.
Right, and I think Chesson Community is a wonderful partner to have in all this too, because life is reaching the audience that we are going to have the hardest time reaching out to. Okay, so we've got a lot of ideas and it's going to be important to try to focus what we can do because we don't have, unlimited people. We don't have unlimited money. So we need to kind of come up with a workable plan. We got $12,000 and maybe if we can raise a little money and if Bike Athens can be the conduit for that sort of thing, we might have a little more, but that's going to take some work. But anyway, so for next steps for what we do, I really do want to try and have some sort of a meeting with Scott to figure out exactly, how we go about pooling our resources, so to speak. How
I've had some pretty good success just inviting him to the Greenway committee meetings. He's comes to the communications and outreach Greenway meetings, so you can just invite him to your meeting and he'll come.
Yeah,
he was at that last one.
Yeah, he did. Well, he's actually on the Communications Education Committee. He's a wonderful resource. So we need to try to get some idea of prices for printing more of the Bike Athens materials that we might want to use at Athens in Motion events if we're ever able to schedule them. We may be able to pay our best friends at Facebook for some ads, kind of boost our exposure out in the community. So we need to figure out what the price of that is. I know Carol has some experience from her recent campaign. And then developing some messages and platforms for our different target audiences, and I think that things need to be very simple and clear and positive. And I just hope we can get a little professional help with that, whether it's paid or volunteer, preferably volunteer. But yeah, and then we could do things in our events like we could have some reflective vests, we could have some car stickers, we could have some little beacon things, for safety when you're riding your bike. Anyway, there are lots and lots of ideas that I hope we can flesh out and develop a little bit more before our next meeting. And so, yeah, that's basically it.
Can I
Craig.
just briefly? Yeah, I know. I realize we're where we are in time. Just briefly, and this is great. Just thinking, we've got a heavy bike focus. Other community groups that might be considered that aren't bike but ped related. The Athens Roadrunners group, and then the Couch to 5K group. I think those could be some potential as we look at community resources and how they're involved, and the various businesses and how they might sponsor some of these activities. One question I have is what's a bike rodeo? I want to know that at some point, because that was one thing that the Macon group did that it sounded like pretty interesting. And then also, I think our hospitals could also be my notes are out of order, but our hospitals, as we promote public health, I think could be also a good resource.
Yeah, that's great, Craig. I'd say, you want to answer, Teresa?
No, I heard Athens Roadrunners. I didn't hear the other organization that you mentioned.
So the Athens Roadrunners is one, and I'm guessing it's still around. I participated with them a long time ago, but then the other, like if you go to the ATHAF, there's a group called, well, actually not the ATHAF, other races that I've done. There's a group called Couch to 5K.
Okay.
Couch?
As in what I'm sitting on right now, a couch.
Couch to
5K.
Yeah, and the businesses, that's a good one too. Yeah.
But keeping those in mind, like the road running aspect of things, I think they would be good partners.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Oh, it also just occurred to me, maybe some of the urgent care centers, would be willing to share a little information on safety, since they're going to see a lot of the injured people.
I was just thinking if we had somehow Athens in Motion logo, but like a bumper sticker that was about being good to pedestrians and cyclists, that we could get the people locally to put on their cars, and I see the people who have the farmers market, and I'm like, there, but why not get the cars to advertise locally that
this is exactly the kind of thing we need to be doing.
Yeah.
Things like just I brake for pedestrians, or respect the bike, or whatever, something very simple but
and cool,
clear, and positive.
That's also an outreach activity that is totally immune to COVID. So
yeah,
those are good to find.
Spread it.
I'll just put in
that one.
I'll put in a skeptical plug that we should make sure what we do, there's hopefully some evidence that it's actually effective. A lot of things that seem like they would make sense and seem like good ideas maybe don't work. And if we have limited resources, we need to, think about what actually, do bumper stickers make a difference? I doubt it, but they make me feel better.
I was actually more thinking as much in awareness that Athens in Motion exists, because I don't think the name is out there. I think there's a good 20 of us that know about it. The Greenway people know about. Kind of putting the two together.
Hopefully we can
people.
And hopefully we can change hospitals like Piedmont, change their opinions on things like road diets. They've been dead set against changing prints because they say it'll slow down ambulances. So hopefully we can bring them more into the fold on bike ped improvements. Make them an ally instead of an enemy.
Well, maybe there's some data out there, like from like the Federal Highway Transportation.
There is.
Yeah.
They just say, "Oh, slow down our ambulances. We don't want to change it."
So I think,
anyway, we don't need to get negative.
With data that says, you don't need to panic over this one. It's really going to be fine. That we could approach them with that. So yeah.
Great. Okay, and we're going to set up another meeting, right, Teresa?
We are.
Okay.
When yet, but soon.
And Craig, a bike rodeo is I've taken part in one with Bike Athens, where it's a great training opportunity for people who are new to cycling and children to improve their safety and skills on bikes. At least the rodeo that I was involved with before.
You might put up cones and have to go around them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was what, if I may, Aaron, that was what was so cool about that one presentation in Macon, Out of the Mouth of Babes, is the importance of coaching. And they said that we have such good success because we have mentors, we have coaching, and so all of those community aspects of things, which I'm sure that Bike Athens is doing or has thought of doing, those kind of things. That was like, it was so inspiring in many ways. Thank you.
And actually, Bike Athens, we just trained like 4 more League of American Cyclist trainers and leaders this 2 weekends ago. So there's more people available to do that officially. So great. Anyone else? I will wrap up by saying one thing is I did apply to the Smart Growth Champions Institute for elected officials to become champions of complete streets on a national it's a national workshop. So I should be finding out about that in the next couple of weeks. But if that is something, that's something that I can get other people like onto the materials. I'd be the official person, but we'll wait and see. I don't want to get too excited about that. But anyway, I should know that by the next meeting. Anyone else? Okay, so our next meeting is October 27th. A motion to adjourn. I don't know if I really need a motion, but.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor? Yay. Have a great October. It's cold outside.
Yeah. See y'all.
Take care. Be safe. Bye-bye.